Good day, lords and ladies, and welcome back to Wartales from me, Cornish-knight, and the Colonel Company. Now, this isn't going to be our normal episode, unfortunately. I had recording issues. The audio was extremely bugged for some reason. I do not know why. As a result, unfortunately, it has led me to having to do a voiceover. Now, I am not going to do a voiceover for the full video. I do not have time, unfortunately. So I thought what I would do, I'd use this opportunity to give my general opinion of how I feel about the game so far. At this point, as we've been playing about just like over 100 episodes at this moment, we've gotten a good way into the game, and I just wanted to sort of give my general opinions and also just give a little bit of feedback on what goes on in this episode. So, first things first, in this episode, you will see it coming up, we finish up with the dungeon here, and we take care of the rat nests relatively quickly, and just do a little bit mopping up in the Grimmere province. Now, my views of the Grimmere province has been relatively divided. I did like what they were trying to do with the game. I thought it was a nice take on the previous sort of story missions for the regions that we'd come up to so far. The use of sort of investigation and subterfuge and that kind of mechanic and the whole accusation thing was interesting. What I believed, and I still do believe, to be honest, I think was a slight mistake, was that it sort of fell down in the application process. The fact is that you couldn't just accuse the person with the evidence you'd found. You had to get to certain waymarks, and the waymarks would then sort of be like ticked boxes. You go, okay, we have this thing, we have this evidence, and now we can accuse him of this, even though it's really obvious that we could make the supposition, an argument that, look, it's very likely that he's done it this way for this reason. Now, I know that people say, oh yeah, but you need evidence for that. You can't just accuse baselessly. This isn't like a modern setting. You didn't need to have rock solid evidence. You could just say, okay, these are the things that we do have. It indicates quite clearly of something like this percent that this sort of accusation has credence. It would be worth you guys actually investigating him yourselves, or at least putting him under suspicion. It would have been nice if we'd had more sort of like dynamic investigation, like things changed depending on like what we found or what we didn't find. I know it was a small indie title. Like, I know Wartales was a game where like there's limited ability for them to act in certain ways, but it would have been nice for the investigation to have a bit more creative flexibility to it, rather than just trying to basically tick boxing, which is what my issue was. Like, it felt very much like we were trying to find the boxes to tick to allow us to explore the next sort of like inquiry route, which can be a pitfall that games can fall into when they're trying to do sort of like a crime investigation narrative if they're not based heavily around it. Yes, as you can see there, we just picked up the achievement for completing the tomb. Yeah, that was my feeling. I felt that the initial premise was good, but it needed work. Now, as you can see here, I'm looking at the puzzle on the wall at this particular section with the stars. This is what you're supposed to use to solve the presser panel puzzle in this dungeon. Now, it's very obtuse. This is the issue I have with this, not this game, but these kind of puzzles where it's like, oh, you have to like pick up on word clues for your surroundings and use those word clues to get hints. I should have not used the key here, to be honest. I should have kept it to complete off the other region because it wasn't really worth what was in the box. But yes, sorry, getting distracted. My opinion on the region was that it was a solid region. I think they could have done more with the main storyline, to be honest. Because it felt like, oh yes, you've got like this abolitionist movement against slavery and like basically a people's rebellion and stuff like that, but it's never really gone into very much detail. It's lightly touched on, oh, they might be responsible for the person's death. When it's proven that they're not responsible, it's not really touched on again. So it feels like a wasted opportunity, to be honest. It could have been a nice sort of brewing situation. And then you have the other half of the region, which is this dungeon here. And I'm going to straight up say it, folks, I do not like this dungeon. I think it's probably the worst dungeon I've found so far in the game. All the puzzles are just really frustrating. The lockbox, which was reset every time you got it wrong, and then injured the person that was trying to fix it, was really annoying. This puzzle here is really annoying. Like I previously said, you have to look up at the stars on the wall to get a clue of how to fix it, but it's not really clearly defined. Like it's not clearly pointed out exactly how the symbol works, so you have to sort of trial and error. And at the end of the day, you get a really rubbish item. And this is my main issue. If you're going to have really nasty puzzles like this, make the reward worthwhile. Because all that the reward is, folks, if I'm being honest, is basically a little golden, like a little ancient idol that we already have in our pack, and you get like 75 gold for it. It's not worth it. And this is my main sort of issue with these kind of puzzles, is that when I try to apply to games like this, it can just be mind-numbing. See, like I basically go into it at this point and basically say, look, it's this. It's not the figure of man, it's the guardian figure. That's what we get. It's 135 gold. It's not worth it. And this is my feeling about the game in general, that a lot of like the ancient artifacts and stuff you find, rather than being worth your time to invest in, just feels like, oh yeah, it's worth like 100 gold. I can get more money from selling like a bandit's dagger than I can this like ancient relic. Which sounds a bit odd, to be honest. I don't know. I just did not like this dungeon. I found it really just frustrating and tedious, and as you can see, I just basically get annoyed by this point and just press down all the buttons and just get a ton of injuries. Because it's not clearly indicated at this stage that I can pick up the statue. So yeah. There we go. You get the statue, and that's it. That's all it is. It's a waste of time. And this is how I feel about not a good amount, but by some elements of the game, is that they try and do it, like you can notice they try to do it with the initial like wall puzzles, but they obviously did not get particularly good feedback from players on it, so they added in the bloke that you can pay renown for to basically automatically solves the puzzle for you if you're getting stuck. And if you're having to do that for like lore important puzzles, it means that you have an issue with your puzzles in general in the game. And I just found it disappointing. Another thing I do found disappointing so far is that the dialogue doesn't change when you complete missions. Like when you complete a main story mission, no one's dialogue changes. So it becomes really tedious to go back and talk to old NPCs when they're still going, oh yes, like the market still has like a smell of corruption, or like Broker Hovendorf is dead, and like good long, like get rid of the witch. Or like this, like we have no option here when we're talking to the guard outside. We have no option to basically tell him that the looters are all dead. it would be really nice just to say, yeah, like the looters are all dead, you don't have to sit out of here anymore. It's like, nope, you can't do that. I would just like the world to feel a bit more immersive, and I think that's my general takeaway from Wartales, is that I really like the game. I think it has a lot of premise. I know they've basically released information about the next piece of DLC, which seems to be something around like pit fighting and like the arenas and stuff like that, which would be cool to see. Maybe they'll flush out the crime element in the game. I haven't looked at a lot of information about it, I'm not going to lie. It'd be nice for that whole sort of crime and sort of arena element of the game to be flushed out more, because I really think the game does need it. Because at the moment, like, I feel that like the sort of crime and punishment and criminal element of the game feels quite separate from everything else, because of the way it sort of interacts and the crime and punishment system interacts in the game. I think it'd be nice for it to be more sort of either if you invest in it, there's a big reason for investing in it, or more intertwined with the other branches of the sort of achievement system that they have. Like when you do it for like combat or trading or exploration or diplomacy, if you have like crime and punishment sort of tied into those other systems as well, so they all interfeed into each other, it would be nice. Because at the moment they feel quite separated, and the crime and punishment one seems to be quite counterintuitive to the rest, to a greater or lesser extent. But yeah, overall, my time playing this game up to this point, I've really had a lot of fun. I really liked it. It takes me back like to Mountain Blade. Though I do understand where people are coming from. The combat can get quite repetitive. You end up becoming like, okay, the tactic for this person is we go here and do this combo followed by this combo. Which can get a bit stale. And I think that's the main issue the game has. They need to figure out ways of making the combat in general feel more dynamic. Not for the enemies, because the enemies actually have a fairly good range of attacks and different abilities. Though having slightly different options would be nice. Maybe if they randomized enemies' loadouts, like ability loadouts, a bit more, that could help improve it. But it's more the fact is like your party becomes quite sort of repetitive in what they do. And there's no horizontal, well, there's no vertical combat height. So it's basically you're playing it on a chessboard like landscape, for lack of a better word. So it can become quite stale. I don't know. Like so far, I've liked the game a lot. Some things as I say, some things I dislike. The dungeons are nice, but like this current one that we've just done with the Grimnir ruins, I just did not enjoy. I think it was not designed particularly well. And just found it quite tedious and unrewarding. I think actually that's the main thing I've taken away from this game, is that overall they seem to be really bad at rewarding players. Anything that the player does, like for like special mission or quest wise, and it's like, oh here, have this artifact, get this cool reward. 9 times out of 10, it's something that you've already found if you explored, or is actually pretty underwhelming. Like be it like a belt upgrade, or like, oh yeah, have this really rare item and it's worth like 75 gold or 100 gold, and you can literally go out and kill a bandit and take his stuff and sell it and make more money. They really need to sort of balance their economy in this game a bit more. Also here with like the compendium, like the knowledge compendium, I think they need to rework sort of like this, like the party feat one, the one we're looking at now. Like what they call it knowledge, but I think they need to rework the knowledge one, because I don't know if I'm missing something or I haven't clicked something, but like some of them just stay locked. I haven't been able to figure out what it is. So it can get a bit frustrating when things remain locked behind sort of invisible walls that you can't figure out. But overall, I've enjoyed the Grim Province. There's been some bits and pieces about it. Some things I just think are a bit of a missed opportunity, like the football game, like basically the cross between basically like medieval football that we play. When you first go into the province, it would be nice to have it found like at the beginning of the game, so you don't get to this province like, okay, yeah, it's going to be throughout every region, and it's like, well, I'm not going to go back to most of the regions, so I completed everything in that region. It would be nice if that had been found earlier, just so that it could be something that we could do at the start of the game and continue to go on throughout. Which I think it's one of the main issues the game has as well, is the fact is that they unlock elements later on to the game, like the football, and it's like, okay, yeah, but I've already played and completed the other like 3-4 regions. Like, I really don't want to like traipse around the setting. So I don't know, like, I really haven't enjoyed playing Wartales, but I do think that some areas could have done with some more polish to them, or at least more development. Like Grimmere is a cool place with a large, like a massive city to explore, but it feels empty to a certain extent. It feels empty, and like you have like tons of merchants wandering around, and that feels more like, well, we had to put the merchants in because where you get the food is so out of location with everything else that you guys can starve quite easily. So we basically have roaming merchants that have food everywhere. I don't know. It feels like a little bit more polish could be done. Maybe we could have had like a second market, like had this region as the one region that had like 2 markets in it rather than just one. It would have been nice that the dialogue for the characters changed after you completed the main story mission. Even if it was just for like the main merchants, it would have been nice just to have a bit of variety. But I don't know. Like I said, this is like a bit of a one-off case for this episode because of the corruption of the audio and the fact that I couldn't go back to an earlier save. So we just got to really, at this point, like I'm already 17 or so minutes into the video, and the next sort of, for those of you who want to keep watching, I basically just blitz the rat's nest and little encounter we have. That's all we really do. So for those of you who want to see some super quick rat exterminations in short time, keep watching the video. My plan after this is that once we've done this, we're going to swing past, grab some supplies, and then hit up the next region, which will be a challenging region. It's going to be the highest region we've been in so far. And as always, the game has taught me that if you go into a region that you're not prepared for, you can get your absolute teeth kicked in. So keep an eye on that for the next episode as well. But I'm going to leave it here, folks. And please, as always, keep an eye on the video. Just keep watching through. It's good to just like see how things go. And I will see you all next time. I've been Cornish-knight, and continue to have fun, folks. Goodbye.
The Peddlers Guild is honored to have your trust and hopes...
I don't know what's going on at the Hovendorp mine. I don't know what's going on at the Hovendorp mine. I haven't received any ore in days. This cannot be allowed to continue. Now that's a job well done.
You're the ones who got my cousin across the border. By Jeru, when he told me how much he promised you.
Might I interest you my humble wares, my good sirs?
Have a look, mercenaries. I sell quality wares for a reasonable price.